So what's up? So I hope you all liked my first video. I will try to improve the quality in the coming videos, and I will also try to buy a better mic, cause I know that this one's is not like the best. I hope you can bear with this mic for like this video and maybe the next. But with that out of the way, let's talk about today's topic. So today I wanted to talk about the Monogatari series, which is my favorite anime, and I want to tell you guys why I think that you should watch it, but I will also give you some points which I think are problematic about the series and which might be a deal breaker for you. So with that pretty much covered, let's talk about what Monogatari is all about. So basically Monogatari is about aberrations. So if you don't know what that means, that's just supernatural beings kinda. And most of the time they are actually born from human unconsciousness or unconscious human desires. And at first the series establishes a paradox, which is kind of like, do people believe in them because they are present, or are they present because humans believe in them? That's kind of the paradox. But generally they have a lot to do with like the characters. So these are not just some basic monsters which just are, I don't know, some basic ass monsters from a dungeon. No, these are really coming from human emotions and desires. So let's talk about what I think is really great about Monogatari. So essentially the focus is on the characters, especially on the characters' growth, and most of like the characters are actually teenagers, and it's all about their overcoming of adolescence and finding their own meaning of life and self-acceptance, like accepting your flaws and your problems and all of that. And also it's heavily dialogue based, so if you expect like kind of an action series here, it really isn't. How this all plays out, I want to give a quick example of like the first two episodes with Senjugahara. Now I will spoil the first two episodes here, so if you don't like that, then I'm sorry, but it's just the first two episodes, so yeah. Now basically it's all about one of the main characters, which is Senjugahara. Now she has a problem because she only weighs 10 kilos. Like in the show it was 10 kilos. I think in Japan they have kilos instead of pounds, so I don't know. Anyway, so she weighs really not a lot, and that's taking a toll on her, and she doesn't know what the problem is. So the main character, Araragi, brings her to like the aberration manager, or kind of like the person who knows a lot about this stuff, who is Oshinomeme. And with the help of him, she finds out that actually there was an incident in her past that made her lose her weight. So basically what happened is that when she was a kid, she was terribly ill, and her mom prayed for her safety. And when her condition didn't get better, her mom kind of went to a cult and became obsessive about it, especially when her illness actually was actually cured. Her mom completely became obsessive about this cult, and Senjugahara and her mom drifted apart, and this whole relationship was destroyed when her mom brought a cult leader to her house, and this cult leader tried to rape Senjugahara, and her mom didn't actually take her own side but took the side of like the cult member. And this moment she encountered like the crab aberration, and she wanted to toss away all of those negative emotions, all of those sad emotions which she has towards her mother. And when she did, she lost like not only the psychological weight but also the physical weight in a way, and that's why she lost her way. And with this revelation she actually saved herself by accepting all of this emotional and physical weight and regaining her actual weight. What I also think is really interesting is like a small nuance. It's not really dived upon anymore, but the main character Aragi, because of helping her, he doubled his weight actually, because he kind of also accepted this emotional burden, and he is now kind of like, the emotional burden doesn't rest on Senjugahara's shoulders alone, but also on Araragi's. Now, anyway, let's talk about it more generally now. So, what I think is really interesting about this whole growth and about this overcoming adolescence, most of us know, personally me, I'm already older than 20, so yeah, it's not really about me here. But I've noticed that a lot of people like a lot of friends and a lot of people that are even older have not overcome everything about their adolescence. And through watching this show, you can kind of like self reflect upon a lot of your own stuff and your own personal things. And you can try to overcome that as well. So maybe you can find things that are still keeping you in the past and um, that are hindering you from becoming the best self, kind of. And for me, there were some actual revelations I had about myself when watching this show, so I have to thank it for that. So yeah, I think this is really important here. Another really good thing or noteworthy thing is that the grown-ups are actually supporting characters. They kind of help the teenagers to overcome the adolescence, but they are in the background. So a good example of that is Ocean and Meme. But through the grown-ups, we are also introduced to different lifestyles. Kaiki, Oshino, Kagenui, they have all different views on life and all have different perspectives on what is right or wrong in a certain subject. And the show never really tells you whose perspective is the best or the right one, because there is actually no right or wrong, they are just perspectives, and something can be right from one perspective but can be wrong from another one. And this is what the show is trying to teach you here, but in a really interesting manner. And because you understand characters that are introduced as maybe not the best people, but you come to understand them, and you come to understand that they are not the worst kind of people. And this will maybe just in time also help you understand other people in the real world which you had difficulties with, but just understand that from their perspective you are the asshole, for example, right? So yeah, actually, I'm not going to say that this is like the 101 life guide, but yes, certainly this show can kind of help you in life, just understanding other people and understanding yourself. Also, especially like the quotes, so for example, that only you can save yourself, or when you curse someone, you dig two graves, which has like a lot of more sense when you actually watch this show. There are also a lot of contradictions in the characters, which I think is really natural for humans, and you can understand that. And these contradictions are resolved in a really interesting manner, and that's what I especially like about Monogatari. There are also a lot of metaphors used in the show. There are a lot of metaphorical speeches, especially when the characters talk. Sometimes you have the feeling that they don't really talk to each other, but they just talk in metaphors, especially the grown-ups, like Oshino Mame. And as someone who's read a lot of, okay, no, maybe not a lot, but certainly some English literature like Shakespeare, it is kind of, I'm kind of reminded of that, like the way the characters talk. It's like a modern day literature, you could say, similar to the one that, like, similar to like some of the really best. So yeah, so I think Monogatari is certainly something that English teachers would love, and they would probably like analyze every episode for 20 hours, and then you would probably hate this show's guts, but it is what it is. It's actually really interesting. But yeah, another really interesting appeal are just the visuals, because they are not only stunning, but they themselves are kind of metaphors, and they have a lot of meaning behind them. And also, the anime is not like the original kind of way of the story, because like the blueprint is the light novel, so you can say that the anime is an interpretation of the light novel. And I think that just seeing the visuals, because like light novels is only text, so just seeing the visuals is like basically having a view on the anime staff's understanding of the metaphors, or kind of like their analysis on this whole series, which I think is really interesting. And they certainly have some other ideas other than like the author what the author like kind of intended to do. Oh Jesus Christ, what was that sentence actually? So yeah, now I could really go on to talk about this like I don't know, hours and hours, but I don't really want to say anything more because this would just be spoilers and I would repeat myself. I think I've like covered the most important stuff. And if you're interested in these kind of topics, then I think that Monogatari is perfect for you. But I will also address some of the problems I had with it. So first of all, the humor. Now, I wouldn't say that the humor in this show is bad, but it's hard to grasp because this show has like a lot of relations with the Japanese culture, not really the apparent ones like Dragon Ball and like not the apparent anime ones like Dragon Ball, One Piece or something. Like for example, Gintama does it. No, there are like a lot of relation with really I don't know, niche cultural things in Japan, which even me, who's I would say that I'm kind of interested in Japan, I've already been there and I know quite a lot, or maybe a few things about their culture, and they're like 90% of these things I have no idea about them, and this is kind of the problem because if you don't know all of these Japanese kind of cultural aspects, then you can't find it funny. Like you just can't. It's not funny because you don't know the stuff. And anyone who claims to have watched this show and understood everything, then this is just bullshit. Like there's no way that you're from like the States or from the UK or something, and you understand everything about that. It's just I don't know. Like maybe if you like briefed like Japan, anime, culture, and all of that 24/7 a day, then maybe, just maybe, you will understand most of it. But as a uni student and something who has also other things to do in life, I don't know. So this is one of the problems. In the most meanings and metaphors, I don't think that you need a profound knowledge in like Japanese culture. I mean, yes, it would maybe help you, but the basic ideas or like all of the really complex parts are also understandable without that. So yeah, but I would say that you should know a little bit about kanji and how it can have like different readings. That would be maybe important just for general understanding of some of the names and some of the other stuff. The next problem, and I think this is the problem that most people have, is like the edgy part. So there are like a lot of lolly characters, and there are a lot of questionable scenes. Let's say it like that. And I mean, there are no excuses. I mean, there are some questionable scenes with like the main character's sisters, and they are like, I don't know, they are 12, 13, I don't even know, and it's just criminal. I don't understand, and they don't look older. Really, they look their age, and um yeah, I find it really obscure like most people, but then again, I kind of think that this is kind of like a cultural critique, you could say, because if you've known a little bit about the Japanese culture, you know that liking younger girls and all of this stuff is like quite a big problem in Japan, because like there are a lot of mangakas, for example the one of Rurouni Kenshin, being accused of like child pornography and just being pedophiles, which is really saddening. And I think because this shows features this quite a lot and has like it's just you just feel that it's too much, you know. I kind of think that it's a cultural critique. At least I hope. I hope it's really not just the author's way of having some weird fetishes. I really hope that is his way to criticize his own culture. But even with that in mind, and even if that's true, it's still kind of obscure to see some of these scenes. And personally, I had to skip some of them. I couldn't bear watching them, to be honest. And the last problem I have with Monogatari is kind of like the fast windows of text which just pop up throughout the episodes. I mean, yes, they are interesting and it has something to do with like the visuals, but sometimes there's just so much text on these kind of pop-up windows, and you have to actually read all of that because it's really important for the story. And because it's just really fast, you have to like pause at the right moment. So this means that you have to rewind a lot watching the episode and then just pause at the right moment. And I don't really see the necessity in doing that. It's just, I think, a little bit stupid. So It would be, I don't know, is it so hard to have like these screens be there for like a few more seconds? I know, as I already said, it has something to do with the visualization, but Jesus fucking Christ, like, I can't read that this fast. I'm not like the fastest reader in the world. I mean, I read books already, like, just leave me alone, please. Like, a few more seconds, okay? Just because sometimes it's just, I don't know. I even, sometimes I just gave up on reading it. Sometimes I was just like, okay, fuck it. I'm not gonna read that. It's too hard to pause at the right moment. I mean, you don't actually need to read all of that because, like, the most basic premise and the most of the ideas are also kind of apparent without reading them. So yeah. Also, just at the end, I would want to give like a quick disclaimer. Um, if you don't really make sense of the series in like the first season, it's perfectly normal. This series builds upon itself, and I think for me it clicked after like the end of Nisemonogatari. That's where I fell in love with the series. Like just before just before I nearly dropped it because of like the really many edgy scenes in Nisemonogatari, but with a big revelation at the end, kind of. It was the point for me where I said, okay, this is one of my favorite animes. But yeah, so just give this series a chance. And if you don't like it from the first few episodes, just bear watching it if you keep in mind and also like the stuff that I talked about. So yeah, that will be everything. I hope you liked this video. I hope that you also like the improved quality. So for this video I also wrote a script so that it wouldn't really be this loose talk similar to the first video. And yeah, I hope that you can just comment stuff that I can work upon and just improve in the next video. And yeah, so with that out of the way, so you can subscribe, you can like the video, and yeah, that will be it.